Anybody about doing it? I was very more grateful. Righteous Father in heaven, we thank you this evening. Thank you, Lord, for your love. Thank you for your mercy. Thank you for how far you have been with us. Thank you, Lord, for the great things you've done. Thank you for the many things you've done. Thank you for what you are yet to do. We pray and this evening, as we commence this evening class, you be with us in Jesus' name. We pray that your presence abide with us and guide us in Jesus' name. In Jesus' mighty name. All right. Good evening, everyone. Without wasting much of our time, I'll be continuing from where we stopped yesterday. So yesterday, I started with printing out this song. So let me just come here and run this code. Let me put in 5.5. So just as we ran it yesterday. So he's asking for the first number from us. So let's put in our first number to be 20, the second number to be 24, and now we can see it is returning to us 44 on the terminal. So we can see how simple it is. We can deal with numbers in Python. It is very easy to handle numbers in Python. So let's go further and do something even more. As you know, there are a lot of arithmetics that can be done with numbers. We can do addition, we can do subtraction, we can do division, we can even do multiplication. So for the sake of this Python class, let's do some of these simple arithmetic, because we are likely to be creating, by the end of today's class, we should be creating a simple calculator that we can actually work with and see how it works. So without wasting much of our time, let's move to creating subtraction. Comment here, subtraction. Now let's have this as sub, first number minus second number. Now, a brief recap on what we did yesterday was the fact that we received an input from the user, the first and the second number, as an input. Now, on line 6 and line 7, we actually convert these string numbers into an integer in such a way that Python will understand, okay, this string number is now converted to an integer. And on line 9, we are doing the simple summation of the first number and the second number. Now on line 11, we are now dealing with the subtraction of these two numbers. So if we come here, if we come to line 13 now, say print sub, which is short form for subtract. So we can come here and run this same code again, and we should be seeing asking for prompting us for the first number, which is probably 20. The second number, let's put in 10, and you can see it's saying 30 and 10, which is perfectly correct, which is perfectly what we expected it to be. So let's just make this formatting look neat and all of that. Let's bring in an S string, addition of first number second is equals to this sum, or we can just put it as equals to. So that's great. Let's do the same thing for the subtraction. Let's create a formatted string. The subtraction of first number and equals to this. So this is looking great already. So don't forget the closing quotation mark. Now I think instead of this and, we can just put the addition operator there. The addition operator, and here we can have our subtraction operator. So if we run this code again, it should be much more descriptive than before. Now it's asking for the first number. The first number is about, let's put in 20 and another number 30. Now it's saying addition of 20 plus 10 is 50, which is what we have expected. Now it's saying subtraction of 20 minus 30 is minus 10, which is absolutely correct. We can just change this as addition, subtraction. Now let's quickly do something like multiplication and division, and we round up with the integer data type. So a quick one, division. Now let's just have it as a short form for div, which is for division. Now we can have in our first number by the second number. Now we can come here again and print it out on the terminal. Print division using a formatted string, division, and we can put in first divided by second number, then equals to div. So if we come here and run this same code again, we should be getting something clearly explained. It's asking for the first number. Now let's take in our first number to be 50 and the second number to be 20. Now it's saying 50 plus 20, which is equals to 70, which is absolutely what we expected. The subtraction 50 minus 20, which is 30, which is absolutely correct. Now we saw for the division part of it. For the division part, which is 50 divided by 20, which is 2.5, which is 2.5. So let's do the very last one, which is the multiplication, which is the multiplication operator in Python. Multiplication. Now, let's see this as multi, and we have our first number times second number. Now, basically, this is how you deal with operators in Python programming language. You can use the operator sign and you can just print it out on the terminal. So let's quickly print that out. Let's create another formatted string and see. We have first number okay, times number is equals multiplication, which is just a short form for multiplication. Now, it might look like our code is running fine for now, but I believe there is a bug with this code. So you might wonder what our bug is. There are errors that our code can actually encounter in the course of running. Now, the first number here, let's give the first number to be about 100, and let's give the second number to be 20, and you can see it is displaying as we expected. It's displaying the first number 120, then we can see the addition 120, we see the division, and we see the multiplication. Now, you might not know that there is a bug in this code in the sense that if I try to run this code again, and I have something like 0, and I have my second number to be 20, some of it will run successfully, and while some you might likely encounter some error. Now you can see the addition is 0 plus this. All right, I think this is still working fine because 0 divided by 20 is 0. 0 times 20 is 0, which is perfect. But if we try to run it this way, let's try to make the second number is 0. If we try to make the second number is 0, let's put in 20 for the first number, and we put in 0 for the second number. Now, we should encounter an error. Why? Because the first number divided by 0 is not possible. And you can see here 0 division error. Division by 0 is impossible. So it's just kind of returning to us what we refer to as when there is a math error whereby it is impossible for you to have something, any number divided by is 0. So let's quickly move on to the next section of today's meeting, which we'll be looking at list. Now, we've covered list briefly while we're dealing with the introductory part of it, of which when we splitted our string. Yes, when we splitted our string into based on the white space, what was returned to us was referred to as a list in Python. So let's look at a list as a data type right now. Let's look at a list as a data type right now. So let's create a list and our dictionary data type at the same time, so that we can make our work easier and neat enough. Now, there's a way you write your list. How do you write in your string? You use double quotes or single quotes. For integer, you don't need quotes and all of that. For your list, it happens to be that for you to have a list of numbers, it must be in square brackets. It must be in square bracket. Now, one thing you should know about lists is it can take in numbers, it can take in integers, it can even take in Boolean. Now, just a brief. Boolean is just a representation of true or false, yes or no. So when you hear Boolean, it should not be new to you, you should not be surprised. Boolean just simply means true or false in Python. So your list data type can take in any of the data type we've covered so far. So let's just quickly create a simple list. Now, as I said earlier, it is always in square bracket. That's how you know this is a list and all of that. So let's quickly create a simple list. Let's take, for instance, student's age. Student's age. Now, we are creating a simple list of student age. Now, student age is the variable. The equals to sign is the operator, and we have the square bracket. Now, you can have your student list as an empty list. When there is nothing in between, it is referred to as an empty list, of which there is nothing in it, But it happens to be that you can always add items to your list. You can remove items from your list. You can even drop an access item in your list. Now, let's take, for instance, we have our list to be empty at first. We can easily add some a value to it. You can say students age dot append. Now, this is a built-in method in Python for Python list. Now, append is now waiting for us to put in what are we appending, what are we adding to this student list. So let's take, for instance, since we are dealing with age, let's put in about 20. And as I said, it can take in a list, and it can take in integer, it can take in boolean, and all of that. So if I come to the next line and print student, I should see now printed on my terminal should be, let me quickly run this, Python list dict.py. Now, what I should be seeing here is just a list item containing 20 in it. So let's enter and let's wait for it to run. Just a moment, I believe it should run, just because it has to save that in memory for me. Now, you can see what I said. Is returning to us a list data type of which it contains 20 as an element in the list. So it is possible for you to have an empty list, and then you start adding items to it. Now, let's take, for instance, your to-do list. You can have something like to-do list, of which you keep adding items to it. Are we together? You can have a to-do list. So you can have a lot in this. In fact, you can have this as your, you can have a boolean, a test in it. Let's take, for instance, instead of we are appending 20, let's quickly do something like this. Since we are taking a student age, we expect it to be much. Let's take, for instance, someone is 20, someone is 30, someone is 40, someone is 50, probably we will have 15 in his classroom, and let's say someone is just 10 and all of that. Now, it happens that we can, let me just comment out this. If we try to print out the student age, so what I'm expecting here is it should be returning a list to me of 5 different elements. That is 20, 30, 40, and 10. 20, 30, 40, 50, and 10. So let me rerun this again. And I believe that should work perfectly well. Now you can see that it returns to me 20, 30, 40, 50, and 10. So it, of course, it happens to be that you can even access each of these elements in your Python. You can access them. You can get a particular element in your list. Now, how do you do that? How can we go about that? But before we proceed, let me show you as a confirmation that this is a list data type. Let's use it. So let's run this again. Now you can see it's returning to us class list. It means what we have here is a list data type. So let's come back to picking an element from our list. Let's take, for instance, we want to return just the very first element in our list as in the terminal. We have 20, we have 30, we have 40, we have 50. It happens to be that 20 is referred to be in position of index is 0. So if I come here and I put in my square bracket and I put in is 0, it means I'm telling Python by default that, okay, I know I have a list of student age, but I want you to return to me of the element, the item on index is 0. So if I run this code again, what I'm expected to see should be just 20. Should be 20. It happens to be that I can even choose to get the last item here. Now, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I can come here and say, okay, I just need the item in index 4, in position 4, index 4. So it should return to me 10. It should return to me 10. So for us to, we can actually have achieved what we did in line 3 can also be achieved by using the negative sign. Print, let's say students. It happens to be that you can actually use -1 as well to get the very last value of your list. Let's take, for instance, you have a very long list of items of which you don't even know the number of inputs there. You can just say -1, and by default, this should return the last item in the list, which is also still returning 10 to us. Do we have any question thus far that with what we've covered? Any question regarding this brief introduction to lists? All right, let's continue without wasting much of our time. Now, it happens to be just as we have string, class string, and it has a lot of methods. Same thing with Python. With Python list, there are a lot of methods in it. We have a lot of methods that we can actually access. And how do you access this method? You use the dots. Now, let's take, for instance, okay, we've gotten this. Let's print something else. Students, the methods we have in for a list. Now we have append, of which we have seen that when we started, of which we add item to our list. We have clear, we have copy, we have count, we have extend, we have index, we have insert, we have pop, we have remove, we have reverse, a lot of them. But we'll just be looking at a few of them right now. Now let's look at few of them, which is pop. Now, if I'm saying pop right now, what pop will return to us is going to remove the last item. By default, it removes the last item. But if you give it a particular index of which you want it to remove, it also can do that for us. Now, remember, in our list, we have 2, 4, 5 items. But now, because I'm running line 5, it should be returning to me 4 items, of which you can't find 10 again there. So let's run this code again and quickly see what that should be given to us. Now it's giving to us 10 and 10. What's happening? We want to just see the remaining 4 items. It happens that we have to assign it to a variable. Now let's quickly do that here. Let's call this modified student age, which is equal to student age dot pop. Now let's just change this to modified student age. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's just read this. Let me just put it here. Student age. Now let's run this again. This should work. So running this again, you can see now that 10 is out of the way. 10 has been removed. Now, and what I did is just the same thing. I'm printing out this student age, which has been initially on line 1. But because of what I did on line 5, it has actually removed the last item in it. So if I try to put in another item, let's say we want to add another item, I think I've introduced that to us, how you can add a new item, which is the append. Let's look at another method in for a list. We see insert. It happens that you can even insert an element to your list. It happens that you can add an element to your list. So let's quickly insert something here. Now, let's insert something. At what index do we want to insert it? Let's put it at, all right, let's look at the input. We have 20, we have 30, we have 40. Now, let's put it at index 1. I'm sorry, index 1. Now, what are we putting on index 1? You can put in, let's put in 23. Now, let's print out the student age again. And now I believe this output should have been modified. Initially, we have 20, 30, 40, 50, and 10. On line 5, we have actually dropped the 10. So we should be left with 20, 30, 40, and 50. But on line 7, I'm inserting a new item, which is 23. In which index? Which is index 1. So let's run this again and see what the output will look like. Now you can see this. You can see what we are having. We are able to successfully modify the initial list item in Python. Now, any question thus far with what we have covered in list? We've covered a lot, and I want us to build a simple project before we end this class this evening. Any question regarding this? If you have any question, you can just drop it in the comment section. I will go through it and surely attend to it. Now, the next part of what we'll be looking at is dictionary. Now, let me just bring that here, dictionary. Now, just as you might have imagined, like the dictionary you might have on your phone and all of that, there is always a key that you search for. Okay, you pick your phone, you type in, okay, Monday. Then Monday will lead you to some definition and some stored data concerning Monday. The same thing is how dictionary in Python works. Dictionary is a key value kind of data type. It has a key and it has a corresponding value. Are we together? For every key, there is always a corresponding value for a dictionary. Now, let's take, for instance, you want to see a database for your students. Yes, because I believe that's what we'll be dealing with when we are dealing with back-end in Python. We want to create a kind of back-end of which once you search for the image, there is a corresponding data for that song you have searched for. Are we together? Now, let me bring everything I've been seeing to something you can actually relate with. Now, let's have something like student data. Now, as you can imagine, what are the things that a student should have? We can actually start with a student data. For a student data, we know for a student, it must have a name. The person must have age, must have a gender. Let's just stick to these 3 entries for now. Let's give this a name. Now, you put in your column. This is how you write your dictionary. You're using curly braces. This is referred to as a curly braces. Are we together? Now, you put in the key. Now, the name here is referred to as the key. Now, anything after this column is referred to as the value. Now, take note, you can have multiple values for a particular key. You can have multiple values for a particular key. But for now, let's make it simple and just add a single value. Now, let's take, for instance, name is Philip. Now, you put in your comma. Now, we want to add something else. We want to add age. We want to add age. Now, remember, Philip is a string. Now, age should be an integer. Let's put in our age to be about 20. You can have gender. We can have gender to be a male. Now, for the sake of the last data type of which we might not be touching because of time, which is a Boolean, we can then ask this. What can we put in here that we can use? Disability. Now, we can set this to false. Now, this is what we refer to as a Boolean. Now, we've just created a simple dictionary now, which has student data as a variable. Everything from here down here is referred to as our dictionary. Now, if we come here to the next line now, let's print it out. Print students, all of those for us. So let's run this again. Now you can see it's returning to us the name, which is Philip, the age, which is 20, the gender, which is male, disability, which is false. Now, the beauty of this now is you can also get a particular you can get the keys alone. And how do you do that? It happens to be that if you don't want the values, the key and the value correspondingly, you can also get the key alone. And that's by using the keyword keys. Keys in for a dictionary. Now, running this code again, it should be returning to me just the name, the age, the gender, and the disability for that student data. Because now I'm saying, just give me the keys. I do not want the value now. So let's run this code again and see if that is working perfectly. Now you can see it's returning to me name, age, gender, and disability. Now it happens to be that you can also add items. Let me clear my screen. Let me clear all of this I've been doing. My terminal, sorry. So perfect, that has been done correctly. Now, it happens to be that you can also access even the name of the students. Now, we've gotten the key here. Now, let's proceed and get something like print students data. Now, I want the name. You can use your square bracket again. Now, the moment I put in my square bracket, you can see it has given me the option. The keys I have in the dictionary is already giving me the age, the disability, the gender, and the name. And now it's asking me which one do I want. But for now, I want just the name. I want to get the name of the student here. So if I come here and run this code again, I could be seeing the name, which is Philip, which is Philip. So it happens to be that I can also get the age, I can also get the disability and all of that. So let me bring this to a concluding part by saying it is possible you have a list in your dictionary. Now, a quick one, let me just modify this so that we can have a proper understanding of what I mean. Now, let's put this as sports. Now, I'm saying we are having another key, which is tag sports. Now, what sport does Philip love the most? Now, I'm putting in a list. Remember, a list is a square bracket. Now, I'm saying he loves football, he loves gaming, and he loves swimming. So it happens that you can also do this in your dictionary. Now, I believe you might begin to get familiar with, I don't know if you've ever heard of JSON file. It's just a dictionary in another dictionary and in another dictionary, very deep kind of storage, data storage. And that's how it has been, that's how it works. So it's even possible in this dictionary I have another dictionary in it. It is possible for us to do that. But I think that will just be the last thing we'll do to wrap up for this list and dictionary as we proceed. So let's quickly run this code again and see what happens. So I'm believing I should not be having any issue. Now it's returning to me name, age, gender, disability, and sport. So if I try to get just the sport alone, instead of getting the name here, sports. So it should be returning to me the list item of which I have there. Now you can see it's returning to me football, gaming, and swimming. So just to wrap these things up, just to wrap it up and we end for the list and dictionary. Now we have student data. Now this is just for one person out of a lot of students we are likely to have, right? It's possible we have a lot of students. So this is just one out of many. This is just one out of many that we can have. So, but before I proceed, any question regarding the ones we've covered? Any question? All right. I believe it means
So,
we are
okay.
okay. We are all good, right?
So, I was kind of. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I said due to network, I was kind of disconnected from the. So I don't know if you can go over it again, especially that of the dictionary.
Now, For dictionary, as I said, how do you know, okay, this is a dictionary and all of that? It starts with a curly bracket, something like this, which is one part of it. Now, the second thing that makes a dictionary is the fact that it is a key value pairs. For every key, this is referred to as a key. They are corresponding value or values. Now, for line 16, we have a single key, which is termed sports. And we have corresponding values, which is now having football, gaming, and swimming. So basically, from what I've done here, we've used the string data type, which is the Philip and the male. We've used the integer data type, which is 20. And we've used the Boolean data type, which is false. And we've used the list data type. We have combined everything together into one, into our dictionary. So that's basically what we've covered so far. And I said there are built-in method for dictionary, which we've seen a few of them. We've used the likes of dot keys, which returns just the keys to us. There is dot values, which returns the entire values to us. And now what I said was we can also access these things by their key as well. You can access them by their key. So I created something like this on line 21, of which we have the student data, that's the dictionary. Then you use your square bracket to get any you put in your key to get any corresponding value. So to wrap up this section of list and dictionary before we go further to conditioning, which I believe with that we should be creating a very simple project. Now, let's simply create something like student data, right? Now, we are dealing with many more students. Now, remember I said it is possible you have a list in another, and you have a dictionary in another dictionary, right? So let's quickly create, this is the first dictionary. In this first dictionary, let's take, for instance, this should be taking the name of the person. Let's take in Okpeyemi. Now, this Okpeyemi is now taking in another dictionary. Let's call this an ID. Okpeyemi is having an ID. Let's take, for instance, 2020 2024-01. That's the ID for Okpeyemi. Now, which gender is it? We can give it a gender, just like we have it before, and say gender is a male. You can also give it, let's take, for instance, department. Which department? Say, okay, it belongs to physics. Physics. I think that's correctly spelled. Now, that's just for Okpeyemi, and we are done with all that has to do with Okpeyemi. Let's take, for instance, we have another person named Philip. Now, Philip is also having his own dictionary. Now, if you might have noticed, I've made a mistake. I've forgotten my comma. So if I've run this code, I will have encountered an error. So you just have to pay attention to all that you are doing. So Philip, we know Philip is also a student. So let's give him an ID, having an ID of, let's say 2024-02. Just an assumption. Let's say gender. Gender is also a male. Now we can give it, let's say this is having a college, is having a college data, is giving us the college. Let's take, for instance, Code4Jesus. And let's take, for instance, it's also giving us his department. It's giving us his department that is in computer science. Let's also think, take it as well. It's giving us even his age. Now we can say, okay, 20. Now we are done with Philip again. So we can actually create the very last data of a personality here. Let's take, for instance, we're having someone like Thompson. Let's give it something like Adewale. So we have our dictionary again. Adewale is giving us, Adewale is having an ID of probably 2024-03. Now, Adewale is giving us his country. He's giving us his country to be probably Nigeria. And he's also giving us is gender to be probably male. Okay. I think I'm just using male throughout all of this. So let's just stop here. Now, look at this carefully and critically. We have created a dictionary in another dictionary. Now, this is our main dictionary. Let me reduce this size so that we can see it. All right. We still can't see it properly, but I believe we can still understand what I mean. Now, these are our main dictionary. Now, in the dictionary, we have keys. So, Opeyemi here is a key, Philip here is a key, and Adewale is a key. Now, for all of these keys, they are now corresponding, their corresponding values are this. For Opeyemi, these are the corresponding values I've highlighted. For Philip, these are the corresponding values I've highlighted. And for Adewale, we have that there as well. Now, just as we did before, we can now access all of this any way we want it. Now, let's take, for instance, let's print students, quickly print out this. Let's print out this and see what it will be returning to us. So let's run this. Now, you can see it's returning to us all the data we have. But now let's take, for instance, we are just concerned about just Opeyemi. We want to get all the data concerning Opeyemi. Remember what I said. To get that, you use your square bracket. Now you can see it's already returning to me the available keys. We have Adewale as a key, we have Opeyemi as a key, and we have Philip as a key. Do not mind this order. VS Code has kind of ordered it alphabetically. That's why you have it this way. A comes before O and before P, so that's why you have it this way. So let's say we want to get the data we have for Philip. His name is Philip. Let's say we want to get the data we have for Philip. We can come here and run this same code again, and we should be seeing all the data we know about Philip here. Now you can see it's saying that, okay, for Philip, he has an ID of this. His gender is a male, is from office, department, and age. And those are all we have about Philip. And that will bring us to an end for the list and dictionary data type. Any question before we move to the next part of it, which is conditions? Which is conditions? Which is condition? Let me quickly create a new file. Time is fast spent. Conditions.py. Now, let's move to the next part of it. As just let if, else, if, and else be all you just think about condition. If this is happening, what do you want it to display on the terminal? If this is not happening, what do you want to display? So basically, what we'll be doing is, with all the knowledge we've gathered so far from the string, from the integer, from the list and dictionary, and even from the introductory part, we're now bringing everything together now to create a simple condition. To create a simple condition. Now, let's take, for instance, we want to just get a valid name from the user. Now, let me just show you how it is always written. Now, you can have, if you give it the condition here, if condition, you have your column, you press enter. Now, if this condition, as I put it there, is true, this part of this code will run. Let me just put it as pass. Else, if it is not true, what do I want to do? Do this. This is how it is formatted. Now, let's take, for instance, there are more if you want to have your code, fine, you can always do that. Now, let's kind of create a simple project to understand how this works. We want to get the name of the user. Let's take, for instance, get the name of the user, get the user's name. All right. I believe we can all do that. How can we get user's name? Can anybody help me? We've covered a lot so far. How can we get the user's name?
Input function.
Perfect. We use the input function. Now, let's just call that name equals to input. So we're passing name here. So it means we're already getting the name from the user this way. Now, we want the user to give us a valid name. What do I mean by a valid name? We want the user that if the user is giving us a name less than 2 characters, we return to the person that, oh boy, the name you are giving to us is invalid. How can you have a 2-letter as a name? For instance, A and Z or I and AD. Those are not valid names. So we want to actually create a condition to handle all of this for us. Now, what can we do? Now, it happens to be that there's what we refer to as length in length as a inbuilt function in Python. What does length do? Let's quickly see that. let's put in the name here. Now it's going to count every letters, everything the user has entered. Are we together? It's going to return to us the number of things, the input the user has entered. Now, let's just get this as length. Let me put this as name length. Length equals to length. Now, let's quickly. So this, I'm believing this should be to us a number. A number. So let me clear my terminal and let me run this Python conditions.py. Now, I should be seeing, it should prompt me for my name at first. So let's see that together. Just a moment. Now, it's asking me for my name. So let's take, for instance, I put in Philip here. Now, Philip is how many characters? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I should be seeing 6 returned to me. Now, you can see that on my screen. It's giving me 6, telling me that, okay, everything I input is just 6 characters. Now, even if I put in a white space, it's going to also count it as a character. Let me put in Philip again. Let me put in Philip again. And now with a white space. Now remember, initially it was 6. Now it should be 7. Do you see that? It's returning everything we enter. So with this, we can now create a simple condition. Now with what we know already, that we can get the length of the name. So let's put this as, let's comment it so that our code can be readable. Get the length of the user's name. So now the next thing is now creating condition. Now we want to create our condition. If is a reserved keyword in Python. You can't use if anyhow in Python. If is a reserved keyword. Once you see if, it is, you can't use it for any other thing. It's just reserved. It's just kind of for this purpose. So if name length, remember, name length will always return a integer to us, right? I believe we are together. It's always going to return an integer to us. Now, if name length is less than 2, now let's take it step by step. If name length, that's the length of the name the person enter. If it is less than, or let me put it less than or equals to 2, what do we actually want to do? We want to say, we want to print it on the terminal that name, let's make it look understandable. Let's use a formatted string. The name the person enters, name is invalid. So we can give an information like expecting name to be more than 2 characters. Are we together? Now, we are saying this is just a very simple condition we have created. Now, else, what if the person is putting in a name greater than 2 characters? We can then print it out that print the person's name, what the person enter, name looks. Now, remember, the input is a string, so we can always format it like dot capitalize, right? We can always capitalize it. So even if the user enters a small letter format. So let's run our code again. Let me just comment out this. Let's comment out this. Now let's run it again. Now it should prompt for my name. Now let's say my name is Philip again. Now if I enter, you can see it's telling me Philip looks good. But if I try to run this same code again and I pass in AY, which people might refer to as a normal name, but my Python code, because of the way I've written it, is going to return what is on line 7 to me, saying that AY is invalid, expecting name to be more than 2 characters. So let's run that and see. Now you can see AY is invalid, expecting name to be more than 2 characters. Any question regarding this function? these if conditions. Any question regarding this? All right, I'm taking that as no question for now. So let's make this code even much more understandable in a way that let's have an if. What if the person inputs a name of about 50 or 60 characters? We can actually see that how can it, we can actually print out a message on the terminal like it is impossible for you to have a name of greater than 50 characters or something like that. So how do we do that? It appears that in Python, there's also a reserved keyword which is referred to as elif, which is a short form for else if, which is elif. Elif. Now, elif, what is the condition? Elif name length is greater than or equals to, let's, if we have the name greater than 20 characters, what do we want to return to the user? We want to say print the name the person enter, the name dot capitalize must be less than 20 characters. So now we have kind of make our code much more flexible in such a way that if we run this code now, if I'm putting in AY, it should tell me AY is invalid, expecting it to be more than 2 characters. If I run this same code now, and I'm putting in Philip, it should tell me Philip looks good. And if I'm now running this same code again, if I'm running this same code again, and I put in, let's just put in a random input, and I put in enter, I believe this should be more than 20 characters. Now let's see, it's saying must be less than 20 characters, must be less than 20 characters. So that's how we actually use conditions in Python. This is how you actually use conditions in Python. So to wrap up for today, I will be introducing what we refer to as loop. Loop. Now, in Python, it appears that you can loop through a process of which it will keep occurring until a condition is met. Until a condition is met. So it appears to be that there are two kinds of loop in Python, which is for loop and while loop. While loop. .py. Now, we might not be going too deep. We'll be dealing with just the introduction and we'll be wrapping it up by the grace of God tomorrow. So loops is a kind of iterable process. It keeps running until a condition is met. Okay, let's just have a brief introduction to it now. Now, coming back to our list, we already have some items here. Let me pick this item, this student age. Let me copy it, Control C, and I bring it to my follow, and I paste it in, Control V. Now, here is the same data we have from the other part. Now, we can actually then say for age in student age. What do I want to do? I want to print every age. Now, what's going to happen here? It's going to look through everything we have. It's going to, for age in student age, it's going to take the very first item, print it on the terminal, go over again. Is there another name there? Put it until there is none left in the list. So let's run this and see what that's going to give us. So this should be Python for while loop.py. So you can see now that it's returning to us 20, 30, 40, 50, and 10. It's returning to us the way we wanted it. So you can see now that it's running them line by line. I don't have to manually start pressing 20, 30, and all of that. It appears that you can even use it for something more. Let's take, for instance, there's another built-in function in Python referred to as range. So from range, where are you starting from? 0. Let's say we want to give a range of 0 to 10. So it's going to print out even that for us. So I can come here and run this same code, and it will run the same thing. But now it's going to run from 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 is not included. And 10 is not included. So this is for loop. And by the grace of God, tomorrow we'll be looking at while loop, and we'll be creating some of our very own function, and we'll be looking at classes as well as we wrap up tomorrow by the special grace of God. So any question regarding all we've covered today, we've covered more about the integers, of which we dealt with the addition, the subtraction, the multiplication, the division, and all of that. We've also looked at the list dictionary, of which we were able to put conditions, of which we've looked at if, elif, and else. And we've also looked at a brief introduction to the for loop, in Python. So any question before we wrap up this evening's meeting? Any question? All right. So I think that will be all for today. That will be all for today. But as an assessment, probably you can try it out. Okay, you can go ahead. I can see your message. Mr. Johnson, sure, the video should be made available soon. The video should be made available soon. All right, that's great. So basically, I want us all to try creating a simple calculator. Now, what do I mean by that? Using these conditions alone, I want us to create a simple calculator of which, if the user you prompt the user for the first number, you prompt the user for the second number, and you prompt the user for the sign, the operator sign from the user. So then you should create a simple condition that can do that for us. So that will be the end for today's meeting. Good night and God bless you. So let's have a short prayer. Oh, hey, pray, laptop.